right, welcome. Welcome, everyone. My name is Ann Raftery, and I'm the Associate Medical Director at the Curry International TB Center here at UCSF. So let's go ahead. These are the objectives for this session. We want to explore ways to bring your body, mind, and spirit back into a state of balance to support your own well-being as a leader, reflect on your values and experiences to understand how your state of balance impacts your team, learn the difference between transactional and transformative relationships as a leader, and identify ways to assess your team and promote a culture of well-being. Next slide. All right, and now it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today's session. Dennis Worsham is a graduate of the National Public Health Leaders Institute at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. He has worked in the government public health sector for over 29 years, the vast majority of his time serving in public health leadership roles within the state and local health departments. He most recently ended his 18-month interim role as the Director of Public Health for Seattle and King County in Washington. Prior to this, Dennis led the department's prevention division, which delivers communicable disease prevention and health promotion services, including infectious disease investigation, tuberculosis, sexually transmitted disease, and vaccine-preventable immunization programs, vital statistics, and King County Medical Examiner's Office, among other programs and services. We're so very grateful to partner with this extraordinary public health leader to bring you this session for public health leaders across the U.S. So please join me in giving Dennis a big virtual welcome. Thank you, Dennis, and over to you.
All right, thank you, Ann. Hello, everyone. Great to see you. I'm really thrilled to be here. I first just want to do a quick disclosure that today is going to be really a quick move through a couple areas. Really wanted to take some time, especially given where we've been in the pandemic, and our workforce is, I know is burned out and tired and exhausted, and oftentimes kind of redefining who we are. And so this is an opportunity to kind of look at us as a leader. How are we doing? Kind of check in. I've had to do this myself, and I'll be doing some, personal sharing throughout this, as well as moving into looking at your team and giving you some ideas. As I was working with the Curry folks, Ann and Emily in particular, to put this presentation together, I just want you to know any of these topics that you'll see throughout this presentation, we could probably do a deeper dive. And at some point, there may be of interest to actually do more of kind of a ongoing series of trainings around this particular area where we can actually get into more tactical work. In 2005, I had the opportunity to step into a role as the TB program manager in Public Health Seattle and King County, and went through both the CDC's program managers course and Curry's. And of course, I loved Curry's and asked them in particular. I was dealing with some really challenging issues at the time around our program morale, the team, and asked if what we could do, if I could work with them, and that we could build into that program managers course a thing on leadership. I think they do a great job in really understanding TB, the modalities of TB, but I was a bit hungry for some more stuff on leadership and how to lead teams. And oftentimes in public health, we promote folks who are really good at what they do, and we put them into roles where they become leaders. And it's a whole different skill set and what it means to be a manager and a good leader. So I have been working with them now since that time as part of their program managers course on the last day. Some of you may have been through that, where we get a chance to spend a few hours on leadership and what that means in leading teams. So today is a little bit of a continuation of that, and through their grace and willingness, we really want to explore how we can do this a bit more, and looking at ways in doing this. This is kind of an introductory, and it will be providing some ideas and thoughts for you, and certainly through the feedback of all of you through this time today, we'll get a better sense of where we're at. So I'm going to share my slides. So today we decided what we're going to kind of focus on is really looking about you as a leader. How are you doing? And checking in and seeing where you're at, and then a little bit about things that you could do to bring balance and well-being into your own life as a leader. I'm a strong believer that if you're not in a good place yourself as a leader, it is really difficult to lead a team of folks into a place of well-being and belonging in your own institute. And of course, we have been through a lot as a public health system, and I needed to take some time off myself after I finished the interim role to kind of do some self-reflection and regrounding and setting in. And you may be doing the same thing, and if you're not, hopefully today will inspire you to do that as well. This is an intentional picture in the back here. It's somebody who's really looking in the mirror and really looking at oneself. And of course, all good leadership starts with really an introspective look at yourself, and that'll be kind of the first tenor of today's presentation. I am a big believer in learning, continual learner, and am really motivated and inspired by so many good authors that are out there that are really doing a lot of really cool things around leadership right now. I'll refer to more books in this, but these are the three that I have read recently. Dare to Lead, I read a while ago, but reread it. And the other two I'll talk a little bit about, but these are going to be some of the books I center some of my conversations from for today. The first one is the Four Pivots. If you've not had a chance to read this, this is a new book, and it's really looking at our journey around equity and social justice and a sense of belonging as we talk about BIPOC and leading staff and community, and really looking at reimagining justice and ourselves within that environment. Although it's looking at society, I think there's things we can pull from that and learn in leadership. At least certainly it was applicable for myself. I took some time and read a book, one of my what I call my self-help books, Martha Beck's The Way to Integrity. And that's kind of what inspired today's presentation. And of course, I'm a big fan of Brene Brown and some of her podcasts, and of course her book, Dare to Lead, and some of the elements will be pulled from that in particular. In Martha Beck's book, In the Way to Integrity, which inspired part of this today, is she talks about integrity from a perspective of when you get into an airplane and you're getting ready to take off, there's an all systems check on that airplane. They want to make sure that the electrical systems are in alignment to the mission of what the plane needs to do, making sure that it's fueled properly, the engines are working, all things are in alignment for the purpose of the mission of what that goal is needing to be. And in Martha Beck's book, she talks about the way to integrity is being in a space individually and as a leader about really how do you do your own system checks and to see if you're spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally intact. And are you integrity in the way of listening and doing what is your purpose and sole purpose in being here and what you do either in your work or your personal life. And I just found it very inspiring and a chance to reflect coming out of the last 3 years of public health and the roles that I've played of doing my own check. And I was out of balance. And so I'm hoping to provide some things that may be reflective for you as well. For today, we're going to focus on a couple things, areas. We're going to talk about checking in about how you are doing and how your team is doing. And then we're going to also, in both of those areas, things that you can do to find balance and perspective as a leader, and which is the first place we always want to start. And then the next is things that you can do to create a culture of well-being and belonging as a team, as a leader for your team. In the book, Martha Beck's book, The Way to Integrity, she does an analogy throughout the entire book about the Divine Comedy. And for those who are familiar of it, with Dante, Dante gets lost in the woods of darkness. And it's about his journey through that darkness in order to get to a place of light or peace for himself. And she does this analogy through the book and provides a lot of exercises. We'll only do one of those today. But I do think it was a really good check-in point for me as I stepped out of the interim director role and took a few weeks off to do some reflection. But in the book, in the Divine Comedy, she says, Dante says, midway through the journey of our life, says Dante, I found myself in a dark forest, for the right was lost. And in this book, he talks about, that we have this intent in our life to live a purposeful life, and in our work and in our leadership that we do as part of our work. And sometimes we find in the middle of that journey, all of a sudden we pause, we look, and we're in this place of darkness, and we're like, what is my purpose? What was my intent? And what am I trying to do? And to check back in and kind of bring that balance back in. I certainly found myself in that space coming out of the pandemic, and certainly trying to lead a large department through that, and found that I had kind of lost touch with some of the things that were important to me in trying to shut down some of my emotional centered stuff and really kind of get into my brain more because it was just so exhausting. And I'm assuming in the work that I've done with other public health colleagues, many have had that experience. So I want to challenge you, and this is not going to be things that you're going to share here in the group, but I want you to be honest with yourself and to look and to see where you're at. Take just a breath in and just think about where you're at now as a leader, and where maybe where you were at, pre-pandemic or coming into this area, whether that was starting a new role and the excitement of that, and then really what was required of you in the last couple of years of the work that you've been doing. And do you find, some challenges or things that you're in a difficult place? She asks some questions, or these are some symptoms that she presents in the book around checking in to see if you're in, as Dante says, these dark woods as part of the self-reflection of where you're at. Do you find yourself in a place where you're feeling a lack of purpose or not having a clarity of purpose? She talks a little bit about emotional misery, and in particular, talking in this particular area is really focused on about being unhappy or really struggling or depression or really not finding joy in a lot of things that you are surrounded yourself with, whether that's in your personal life or in your professional life. Another symptom that might be showing up if you are in this space of the dark woods is really about physical deterioration. There's a great book I read early in my career, and it really talked about, in particular, that in your life, that your biography becomes your biology. And what that really was saying from a perspective is that whatever your story is, or whatever the narrative is that is going on in your life, is that narrative becomes your biology. So if you are in a place of this emotional misery or stuck or feeling like you just can't get out of this place of where you're feeling, is those things are going to start manifesting in your body one way or another. And so this physical deterioration starts to look at a variety of things of, are you having more headaches? Are you feeling, more less motivated or it's just showing up somehow in your own physical characteristics of where you're at. And it's a good sign if you are, that there are some other things that are going on, maybe to do with some deeper exploration. This consistent relationship of failures, looking at oftentimes in our professional life or personal life of where we repeat patterns and relationships, whether they're with our staff, our colleagues, our supervisors, or in our personal life, are there things that just feel like they continue to break down and not work the way you would want them to work is another example of some symptoms. Consistent failures or job hopping is another place to explore in your life. If you're finding that you get super excited about a new job and you get into that job, and then all of a sudden the same narrative kind of shows up of unhappiness or not fulfillment, and you feel like you're just not meeting where you want to be and the joy you want in your personal life, and getting that flow as a leader that really motivates you and inspires you of where you're at. And the other part that is another good look is really about bad habits you can't break. And I will give a couple examples just personally. I know through the pandemic, I am a person who that I found myself really stressed out and really trying to lead a team, and knowing that team was burned out, that some of the things in my own life started like, sugar was a really great fix. Having, that extra, cookie or eating more when I was stressed was really some things that started to show up. I know also in the pandemic, there has been a lot written about emotional well-being and the increase of alcohol take or other substances for people to really get to that euphoria place or to self-medicate in one way or another. Some habits, things that brought you temporary happiness, perhaps, but things that weren't sustainable. So looking about, are there some things that you've picked up from a place of getting these dopamines in your body that aren't sustainable, maybe through some bad habits that are making it more difficult to really break? These are some things that she explores in the book, in particular about some self-reflection. And I want you to think about a quick check-in with yourself of some of those things or any of those things really resonate with you. One of the things that I really appreciate, I'm a person who really tries to live in this place of really trusting my gut and knowing that that I get these promptings or feelings about what is the right thing and move in those directions. And those things, I think, when I am in the dark woods myself, is I start to ignore or not hear or pay attention to some of those whispers or gut feelings or emotions. And one of the things I really love about some of Oprah's work in her leadership in really trying to move society in a healthy and place of well-being for individuals, which translates to teams as well, is she always talks about, it starts out as a whisper, a nudge, it's a feeling, it's a prompting, and you ignore it, you put it away, and then it comes back a little louder, it comes back a little bit more persistent, and we continue to put away those things and not pay attention to those. And when we continue to do that in our life, then we talk about we hit the wall. And if we don't pay attention, then it shows up one way or another, through physical health, through challenging things in relationships, or really a place of not being well in your own life or your own experiences. And so I'm a person who believes listening to your gut, those feelings, those emotions, that we all have those, and they're important pieces for us. And if we're not in a healthy place, they're harder to hear, they're harder to have the trust and really move into a space for yourself. We're not going to do this collectively as a group, but I'm going to just ask a few of these questions. That is one of the explorations in the book that really talks about a reflection of, are you in a difficult place yourself as an individual or a leader in what you're experiencing? And she does this through 28 questions, and you answer a true or false, and it gives you a chance just to kind of reflect a little bit. But some of these pieces, and if you want to just grab a piece of paper or a note, do a hash mark, if some of these things are true for you, I think they're things that I would want you to explore when you have some time, and we're going to give you a little bit of time to journal here in just a couple of minutes. But in general, do you see people as good and lovable? I sometimes feel my daily activities are meaningless. I adore the company of my friends and loved ones. My job feels like a heavy burden. I feel on purpose and fulfilled even on the most ordinary days. I have trouble sustaining loving relationships. I have frequent infections, colds, flus, etc. And when people around me aren't generally getting sick. There's an undercurrent or contentment that supports me at all times. I get to make a living doing something I love. I don't feel really seen and understood by anybody. I believe my presence is changing the world for the better in small ways or large. My relationships are often troubled by anger and mistrust. I don't need any mood-altering substances or exciting activities to feel great. Other people seem to be accomplishing great things, but I just don't measure up. I have friends whose company I don't really enjoy. I sleep deeply and restfully almost every night. I can almost always count on my loved ones to understand me. Through frightening things sometimes happen, I always feel basically safe. I have aches, pains, and fatigue that limit my activities. I frequently feel annoyed at whoever happens to be around me. I love my job and can't wait to get to it. I often feel so worried I don't sleep well. My life is full of love and companionship. I don't feel as if my work contributes anything important to the world. Even when people around me get sick, I almost always stay healthy. I often feel an underlying sense of sadness or despair. I believe everyone's essence is basically good. I feel angry even when I'm alone. So in her book, she spends some time through asking the questions and kind of tallying these up. And I do think for me, going through this, there were some pieces for me in reading the book that definitely stood out, that there was some places that I was struggling and really needed to kind of to pay attention. What I'd like to do is have you grab a piece of paper or a notebook, and I want to give just a minute here, minute and a half or so, for you to just reflect a bit and check in with yourself. How are you doing? I'm going to put these questions back up there, and see where you think you're at. And if there are a couple things or a thing in particular that jumped out at you that might be an indicator that there's a bit of a struggle or something you want to bring a bit more balance back into your life of well-being, then want to just kind of focus on something here for just a moment. So if you can grab a piece of paper, I'm going to give you a minute and a half, and we are going to just have you write one or two things just as a self-reflection about where you think you might be currently, either in your work, your personal life, or both. I find them hard to separate in how I show up. All right, not a lot of time, I know, but just a chance to take a breath and see maybe some of those things that maybe real for you. So what can you do? What are some things in order to bring balance into your own life and create your own integrity? All your systems are working for the mission and purpose of you as a human and as a leader. The first thing I think it's important is that you really need to figure out what is the root of your imbalance and what problem or challenge needs to be addressed, whether that's at a personal or professional level of something that you may need to work on. A couple things that I have found successful in my own career and personal life is find a coach to really help me if I feel stuck at work and or feel like I'm in a difficult spot at work, and somebody who can help me give some feedback and perspective to me, and someone who can listen to me and help me through where I'm stuck. Another thing you can do if you have a trusted friend or colleague to have those kind of conversations with and explore a little bit, ask for feedback and or share where you're at and share some potential ways with each other about how to get really unstuck. And of course, finding a counselor if there are some things that are a bit deeper for you that you need to explore and maybe work on. I really believe if you don't get to the root of the problem, you don't really get to the right resolution and the fit that you need to do in order to be in a better spot. Some ways that you can, suggestions here to improve balance in your own integrity is develop some practices that keep you balanced and in your own integrity. Is a daily meditation practice of just taking a few moments to breathe, to read something enlightening, to journal, whatever that is for you, that is a meditative practice, to take time out for yourself and to catch your breath and to relax. There's a lot of science that has come out now around mindful practices and meditation, even if it's only for 10 minutes a day. Or even 3 minutes makes a big difference. In my own work in public health, we have oftentimes start our team meetings with just grounding in and giving people an opportunity to transition from where they're at, whether they're at home or in physical space, just to really kind of ground in and some type of a meditation. Physical activity, exercise is an important way of bringing balance. Be intentional, mindful of what goes into your body. Again, if you're a stress eater, for example, is being mindful and intentional about why you're eating, what you're eating, And is it to really soothe or to bring some dopamines into your life to make you feel better, but just be intentional about what goes into your body. Social connectedness, again, science is really strong about having social cohesion and feeling connected. I think this is a really tough place for us as we move into virtual world of losing a bit of this and finding a practice that you can really pull some of your social connectedness. And then finding your flow, things that really bring you joy, things that aren't hard, things that come to you naturally, things that you enjoy through work or outside of work, that is just your natural flow where things happen easy for you is an important way. And of course, a big believer of practicing gratitude in the work that you do every day. Another book I read from Jay Shetty, and it's called Think Like a Monk. This is something I've incorporated into my own practice, and he has what he says: make time every day, and the time is to express gratitude to someone or something every day. So I always start my day with a place of gratitude by sending a note or making a phone call. Insight, read or listen to something that forces you to explore your mind. 15 minutes of meditation, breath work each day, and then to do something on exercise that can really bring stretching. Such as stretching or working out at a gym or getting some exercise. I have this time written out on my computer, and I do this every day as part of my own practice of where I want to go. Another good thing is really borrowed from Native American practices called the medicine wheel, and it looks at the 4 areas around body, mind, spiritual, and emotions, and look to see a reflection about how you're doing in each of those areas, body being physical and or food or those type of things, mind, about meditations, emotions about where you're at in connections with people, and maybe your own spiritual practices and what that looks like. It's another example of where you can explore some levels of meditations. Okay, what I'd like to do now, I know we're moving through this rather quickly, but with your piece of paper, I want you to think back about something that you're willing to do in setting an intention of how to bring, either explore more of what is going on for you or bring a sense of well-being, whether that's exploring a bit more the medicine wheel and what that looks like for you, taking something such as the time method by Jay Shetty to look at how you can do a daily practice, or looking at some of these other things of integrity. So to write 1 or 2 things that might be of benefit to you that you're willing to do, and give it a try over the next 10 days and see if it brings a practice. It can be 1 or 2 things that you're willing to do. All right, hopefully you've got at least one idea. What we're going to do is I'm going to have Emily break us into breakout groups. You're going to be in a group of 5 or smaller. I'm not sure how many will be, but less than 5. And the opportunity here is maybe just to share 1 or 2 things as a reflection about kind of where you're at and or something that you're committed in an intention in order to bring a bit of balance and well-being into your life as a leader and as a human being.
Over to you. Back to you, Dennis.
All right. Well, I hope you got a chance to at least meet somebody new or reacquaint yourself with somebody you've worked with before. I know we're moving through a pretty quick clip, which I anticipated that would be the case. But I'm hoping, again, just going back to the initial statement of an opportunity to check in on a couple things here and give you some things to be thinking about as you move throughout the next couple weeks, and maybe some other things to come back on. This is a quote I just put out there from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Says, "If you would lift me up, you must be on higher ground." And I think that one of the things I have learned in my own life as a leader of people and people that are friends and family is that you've got to kind of be in a good space yourself in order to be able to help others up. And I think one of the things that oftentimes happens in leadership in public health is we give a lot because we're drawn to this field because we care. And oftentimes we deplete our own being in order to take care of others that are around us. And the first part of this this exercise of this today is really just to be, if nothing else, is to remind you that you're an important piece of well-being for your team, is making sure that you as a leader are in a place of your own self-care. So developing some practice for you that's important. And then we're going to move in to some of the things that I have found in my own practice as a leader around building teams and the importance of team and team well-being. I will say I've become a big champion of this within our own department and in my own priority setting as a leader, is making sure that we create a culture of well-being and belonging. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as a group. So let me just put this up here for you. This is just an opportunity to shift a bit about yourself and talk about your teams. And you can address any of these questions that you would like to in your group, but it's really about, how is your team doing? What challenges do you seem to be experiencing? Have you developed a great way of assessing how your team is? Is there any practices there of how you check in with your team, or things that you're doing to create well-being or addressing burnout within your areas? So anything along those lines could be just needing support and sharing that, or if you've got some best practices. All right, welcome back. I hope you got some good ideas, or at least some support around understanding a little bit about where you and your team are at, and maybe some best practices. If anybody would like to throw in the chat real quickly a couple of reflections, or just maybe one or two things that you're doing in order to build a better team, or how your team is doing, to answer anything of what we just put out there, feel free to put into the chat. We'll monitor that, and I'm going to share a couple things with you. Again, these are tips of things that you might consider. So in the next little bit here, we're going to cover, what does a culture of well-being and belonging look like, some ideas about building that. Want to talk about leadership that is more transformational than transactional. Talk about more transparency and engagement, and clear priorities and vision as a leader, and building a culture of appreciation and gratitude, are all things where I'm going to spend a little bit of time on and talking here in the next 20 minutes as we move towards, unfortunately, the end of this time together, because there's a lot here. And again, we'll hopefully come back and build these out into different modules at some point if there's an interest, and doing a bit deeper work in this area and supporting people in this transformation. So first one, the culture of well-being and belonging, of course, is important of where we want to go. So according to the Harvard Business Review, if you've not subscribed to that, they actually have some wonderful articles and things that I have pulled from many times as a leader that I think are really transferable to what I do in public health. So according to the Harvard Business Culture, really the importance of creating this well-being and belonging within your organization really helps people to feel inspired in the company's mission. It really helps when people say that they are feeling that they're heard and treated well and recognized and appreciated. They experience less stress and more engaged. They feel psychologically safe and free to be authentic in themselves, and be more loyal and less likely to leave. That when we kind of create this culture, is that there are a lot of really positive side effects that happen for our staff and for our teams in where we go. So there's the public health benefit for you and your work, is the science says it's a good thing to do, and people will really go. I think the important thing I want to just put out here as a caveat that I think is really important to also mention is we're going to be going through a couple things around building well-being and belonging, but I think it's really important to understand, for those who have done any work around targeted universalism, is that you set a universal goal of where you want to go in public health for our community, right? And the universal goal that we're trying to accomplish here as leaders with our teams is creating a culture of well-being and belonging. And what we know in looking at that universal goal is that there are targeted approaches that may be different based on different people on your team. For example, In our team here in King County a couple years ago, we had a couple people within our team who were trans and or non-binary, and really did not feel that it was a safe environment to be within our workforce. And although we would set these goals of well-being and belonging, is there are some times that we have to have targeted approaches when we look at our BIPOC staff. We look at people who are trans or non-binary, or other folks around gender or age within our work environment. You may have to develop different strategies for different folks based on where individuals are on your team. So it's important to have a targeted, a universal goal, but understanding those targets and how you approach them in different populations will be different. See if I can advance my slide here. Creating a sense of well-being. Here are some ideas that are out of the Harvard Business Review work that I have spent a little bit of time working through. So really consider your values as a team, and be clear about what your values are going in as a group. So who are you? What's your identity? Who are you, and how do you live those values? So if we come in and we say our values are that we really care about our staff and the well-being, is we've got to make sure that we're living up to the values in which we put out there. So be really intentional about what values you're saying, because those are going to be what you're going to be held to as the mark of success. It's important to listen to what employees want and need. So develop some kind of a way of getting input from your team. In King County, we do a yearly check-in with the staff, and we do a survey. They get to answer a variety of questions about how they are doing and what they want to see different within the area. So it's a constant feedback to us as leaders within our organization. Make employees' mental health a priority, which is something we don't often do. What is it we need to do to make sure our teams are healthy, and how do we set that as a priority when we think about our work schedules and our work priorities? Offer flexibility to staffers is important. We got to role model as leaders, healthy behaviors. Embrace employees, live outside, embrace what employees do and live outside of work. There's been this old adage from a leadership thing is keep your work life and your personal life separate, but we know that people are whole in who they are and how they show up, and it's important for people is to embrace them who they are and show interest in who they are and their families and what they do, and some of their interest outside of the work environment really helps to create a culture of belonging as well. Create forums where employees can talk about their interests, family, and life. Give people an opportunity as their check-ins or forums in which people can gather together and as part of a retreat, or those type of things are important in building a culture of belonging. This is an interesting one that we have done as a team. Encourage community services. We've selected service projects as a team where we've gone to food banks and we've worked together. We also have done things around dog rescue facilities, but really doing as a team, working towards a common goal of doing something good for others is really where that comes out, encouraging people to do that. Creating a healthy work environment, being willing as a leader to address where there's challenges. Sometimes conflict is difficult, but sometimes leaning into those conflicts or challenges within the work environment really helps to have people feel safe and supported in their workplaces. Offer numerous ways for employees to increase daily physical activity. Give people time off during the day to go for a walk, do walking meetings, yoga, meditations, but really try to build that into their work life and not make them take time off as part of that work. If your HR will support that. We've gotten to a good place with that here in King County of giving people time to do that. And of course, finding people on your team who are willing to be champions and help lead this through your work as a team lead. Another interesting one that I will say that has been beneficial to us as an organization is we learned that people oftentimes showed up at work and didn't feel connected. And the more that we could have them feel connected immediately and a sense of belonging, creating from the very beginning, that first impression is a really good way. So if you don't have a good onboarding program for new employees, this is something that I have found very beneficial in what we have done here. So have a plan before they arrive. Make sure that someone's there to meet them and have a conversation with them, show them where their desk is, maybe go through a few things housekeeping, as well as just kind of check in with them, but make them really feel welcome from the very beginning. We assign buddies in the programs where they can go to ask questions, help them make sure they're okay if they're missing some days of work, to check in with them, but really to get somebody who's going to kind of help mentor and buddy them into the culture of the organization and make them feel welcome. We created what we call a welcome packet with key information, and we also put a little $5 coffee coupon in there for them to get coffee. But it's just kind of a welcome to the department and to the team. And then we then build in quarterly orientations for new employees. As a division, there's about 250 people in the division that I was running, and sometimes we have onboard people at different times. So we would set either a monthly or bi-monthly time for all new employees to come together and do an orientation and get them to meet the leadership of the division and of the programs as part of that new employee orientation. This is outside of the one that the department does that is really basic. This is really about get to know you, learn our culture, and make them feel welcome. And then what I have done in our division, something you may consider, is I recorded a message on a video, and the day that they arrive, one of the first emails they get is a video of me welcoming them. It's a little personal touch rather than just an email that says welcome, but it's a way to make them feel connected immediately and try to be innovative in how we do that. And we always try to schedule someone on their first day to take them to lunch, whether it's a team, a group, or a few people, but just to make them feel welcome. But think about your onboarding, because that is the first impression that people have in creating a sense of belonging to where they're at. I'm going to move quickly through a next couple of one of these. This is one of my big things in the 4 pivots that was really aha and opening to me and I really want to encourage people to look at this a little bit more closely. But I think in public health, we're so science-based, we tend to be more transactional and translates into our relationships with our staff rather than transformational, which is more transformational relationships really are about how to connect with people and connect the hearts and minds of people, where transactional leadership is really about what are we trying to do, meeting our goals. We have our flow charts and our logic models, and they're all inputs with outputs and what we're trying to accomplish. And they're all transactional in many ways about how we think and how we think in government about how we do our work. I'm not going to go through this list. You'll get a chance when you get these slides. But I want you to think about in your relationships with your staff, do you tend to be more transactional? You show up, you tell them what the goals are, you tell them what they're going to be measured by. We talk about their performance evaluation. Or are we more transformational, where we're really getting to know individuals and building relationships? A good example of this that is around building the transformational and the leaderships. If you want to move people, they've got to know you care about them. When I came into the division, which again, we have over 200 folks, I spent my first year scheduling 20 minutes one-on-ones with everybody in the division to give an opportunity to know them by name and a little bit about them. I asked them 3 questions. Anything they wanted to share with me personally, how they got there in their jobs and what they like about it, and any coaching that they wanted to give me as a new leader about what I needed to do to be successful and help them be successful. So really start and building those relationships right off the bat is really more of a transformational type of leadership rather than a transaction. A transaction is I just send out an email and tell people that I'm glad they're there. Transformational is really trying to get to know them and really onboard them to a sense of belonging. So this is, I think, is really important in any work we do in public health. If we're trying to change behaviors, population health, work with folks, we've got to start with the heart level piece of this and be more transformational in our leadership style and think about when it is appropriate to be transactional, but try to move further away from that. I will talk a little bit about trust and transparency and engagement. This is a thing that is oftentimes challenging, but logical. When we think about being a transparent leader, I know that there are times and places in government we can't share everything because of HR or because of a directive from one of the electeds. Or budgets or certain things. But I think it's important to be able to share what you can share and to be able to to share if you can't share, when you will be able to share. It's really important for building trust and a sense of belonging in an organization and well-being is when you are a transparent leader. So here's some things, 6 ways that I just listed out here that I think there are many more, but you should consider about ways that you can be more transparent as a leader. So be honest. Don't people know when you're not being authentic, and sometimes they feel. People know that they smell bullshit when it's coming, and it's really important for us to be honest enough. If it's better to say nothing than to not be honest in your transaction and relationships with your staff. Be open and accessible. Have time where people can reach you, have questions, and figure out ways in your staff meetings of open-ended questions. Or we do a thing in our division that we do once a month, ask the director a question. I call it Stump the Chump, and where people get to come in for an hour and ask whatever questions they want in a online process, and to really create transparency and openness in communications with our folks. Ask questions and show interest is another way that you can be transparent, is show up with people, ask them who they are, what they're doing, ask them about their personal lives, but really getting that dialogue started is really opens up some transparency and relationship building. Confront difficult situations. We talked about that in the last slide. It's really important to do that because people don't want to work in unhealthy environments, and you need to be able to step into those and interrupt those people or cultures that really are causing harm to others in your workplace. So be able to confront those. You need to provide access to information, whether it's through minutes or whether it's through online or through meetings. But make sure that people have access to the information that you have and share it more readily so people feel that you're being open about where they're at, and involve people in the discussion and making. We try to do anything that impacts culture in our division. We try to put a cross-divisional team together to have people bring recommendations and own where we're going to go as a division. Whether that's from our equity work to our employee engagement to our well-being work, is let it really be driven from a staff level and let people be involved in the decision-making of where you go as a culture. The last thing I'm going to put, this one here, this is an interesting one. We went out to, when I became the interim director for our 2,500 employees at the time in King County, we said, how do we create a better place of well-being? The most repeated answer was, we need leaders to set priorities. And that we in public health say yes to everything, and people in the staff level are feeling overwhelmed and overworked, and they need to know what are the priorities and what they can let go of. And this was really an eye-opening thing for me. It wasn't about give us more time off, give us more pay, give us flexible work hours. The number one thing came back most repeatedly was, we need people to set priorities so we're clear of what we can let go of when we have to make decisions. So do that, build a strategic plan so people have the long-term vision of where you're going, but in the short range, have huddles, have conversations about where barriers are happening, where people are feeling overwhelmed, help to set priorities in the work schedules, be flexible, be intentional about what you're letting go of or what you're setting as a priority, be informed, hear what you're hearing from staff and what they're feeling and where they need help in setting priorities, and then be clear with what those priorities are. Last thing, again, this is coming from our full person back to the team, is I am a big believer that when you create a culture of gratitude and appreciation in the work environment, it just sets a wonderful tone of culture of well-being and belonging. So it can boost morale, it reduces stress, it reduces absenteeism, it increases productivity, and it increases retention, and also people want to come work for a team that is thriving and doing well. Here are some things that you can do to build gratitude. Send prompt thank you notes and emails We do a check-in every week. We were through COVID, where we would do report outs of things that were going. I would try to pick one person every day on that call that I would, as soon as that meeting was over, I would pick up the phone and call them and thank them for something they did, or something that they accomplished within their work. So really be prompt, send something, make it personal in how you approach it. Celebrate big and small things on your team. Have a celebration. Do a big win. Really make big things. Celebratory environments really create a sense of appreciation and gratitude. Incorporate it into your leadership. We do a thing called Thankful Thursday with our leaders, and we have them identify things within their programs, people within their programs who have done something outstanding, and we send a card with all of our division leadership signatures on it. And it's a personal card that's handwritten, and we send a thank you note every Thursday. It's called Thankful Thursday that we do as part of our gratitude. Create opportunities within your staff meetings. Give airtime for people to share something that they're grateful for, either an individual or a team, and figure out how you build these cultures of recognition and really promote it. I think the one thing that's most difficult is people expect gratitude and appreciation to come from the top down. But if you can figure out how and getting the team engaged about a peer-to-peer appreciation, I do think it really helps move the culture in a stronger way. So recapping, culture of well-being and belonging, we talked about a little bit about what does it mean to be more transformational than transactional in our relationship with our staff. Building a sense of transparency and engagement, having clear priorities and setting that vision, and really building a culture of appreciation. We're not going to have time to do a breakout, but I do hope what you will do is getting some thoughts from today's presentation about one or two things that you can bring back to your team in creating a space of well-being and belonging for where you're at and where you're going. Again, we'll send these slides out, and I'm going to end my time here. I will stop. Thank you for your time, and I will hand it back to Anne.
Thank you so much, Dennis. You've left us with a lot of things to perk on, and I just wanted to add that Birgit also shared in the chat about what they do in terms of ensuring they have staff appreciation and also recognizing their patients completing treatment. So that recognition and appreciation was noted as well. And then I just wanted to call out Kate, who mentioned that they have developed a team charter that is written by their team that sets the values for their team and how they approach their work. And I thought that was another unique thing to focus on in terms of team building. So I was wondering, Kate, if you would just maybe say a word or two about your team charter and how you feel that's supporting the development of your team.
Yeah, no, thanks for letting me share that. So this was something that was drafted during a strategic planning process pre-pandemic in 2016. And so it's gone through a couple different versions. And this was something that the team had asked for. So as part of kind of teaming and strategic planning, this was something that came up. And so we started drafting some things and putting it together and putting it to paper. And one of the big things that our team was really focused on was equity and the stigma related to TB, and that this really hadn't been addressed in one way. And so we were taking kind of lead in our organization. And one of the things that was really interesting and cool at the same time was that once we finished it and we all signed it, we sent it to our executive leadership team and we asked them to sign on, and they all did too. And so that was really kind of a big win for us. It's not just our team, but it's our division directors and our health officer who really support this and who support the work that we're doing and the values and what we're bringing forward. So post-pandemic, we went back to our strategic plan from pre-pandemic. We're like, is this where we want to be? And we had some new team members. And so we went back and we revised the document. And so it's a living, breathing document. It's not something that's just on the shelf. And then any new team member that comes on our orientation checklist, that's one of the things that they have to do. They have to go through it with myself or the lead worker, and they have to sign on to that as part of a team member. So it's kind of one thing that we have brought onto our team. And we really walk the walk and talk the talk, right? Like it's not just something that we've drafted and we put out there. It's something that we are now bringing back at our team meetings. And now as icebreakers, we're talking about how we bring our values and how our values show up in our work. So again, connecting to that work too, I think is really important.
Wonderful example. Thank you, Kate. And thank you for offering to show that, and we'll share that in the materials as well for this session. So I know we are on our last couple minutes. This really was an opportunity to, try to give something back to all of you who are leading teams, who have gone through the last few years of in public health in one form or another, maybe in different capacities, trying to navigate the situations that we were asked to deal with. So we wanted to give back to you. I hope that you're leaving with a thought, a tool, maybe a resource that you want to dive deeper into. And we hope that maybe there will be an opportunity for us to continue a series really helping to support the leadership in public health, because we recognize how important that is and how important it is to feed our leaders and grow our leaders. So thank you for taking this time. If you're wanting to get continuing education units for this session, remember that you need to complete that evaluation. So please reach out to us if you don't see the link in your email. Please let us know what you thought about this session, and if there are certain areas that you would like to dive deeper in as a leader, what you would like to hear more about. We really will be looking at that feedback closely, and it will help to guide what we will do with our thoughts around developing a leadership type of track. So with that, I guess let's give Dennis a big thank you. Again, thank you, Dennis, for taking the time and very thoughtful messages that you've shared with us. Really appreciate all of that you've done, and hope that you will continue to help support the, and get the work out there, or help support the Curry Center in this area going forward. And we wish you all the best. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this time, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.